And welcome to the Restaurant Coach Podcast. It is the cure for the common restaurant. I am honored to have back on the show once again the one, the only, the legendary Ron Bryant, the restaurant giant. Bo, it's so great to have you back on the show, man. Hey, number one, I want to say thanks for taking time out. I know you are you are busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest out there, kicking ass, taking names, helping restaurants, running your own restaurants. Hey, catch people up real quick, since you were on the show a while ago, but now there's a lot of like new developments as far as like you got a couple restaurants.
Yeah, it's funny. I was trying to remember when the last time I was on the show. I do think it was pre-restaurants. So
it was pre-restaurants. Yeah. I think you were just getting ready. You had like bought the space and you were talking about what you're going to do.
Yeah. So it's a unique space, something that we're really proud of. It's pretty cool. It's 3 suites, 2 different concepts.
Yep.
In the middle suite is kind of a flowing room that allows for overflow on the breakfast concept. We got a bougie brunch concept called brunch. There's a reason for that, though. Trademarks are dead. SEO is king. The way people look up restaurants is brunch near me, not the name of my silly restaurant. So anyway, then the pizza place on the other side. So it kind of opened it as a laboratory, like you said. You and I both share the same space and consulting, and it was a lot of reasons for opening the restaurant. I think to stay current as a consultant, one of the biggest things was how much the space had changed since COVID. And these changes were precipitous. Like we saw them kind of coming before COVID. You saw this, the race to 20, basically. One day there was a race to $15 an hour, and then the next day it was $20 an hour. I was like, holy shit. But yeah, it was an opportunity for me to open a spot and have my kids, work with their parents and kind of learn on our backs a little bit. Maybe be given a little bit of grace and shown more opportunity than they might have been able to if they had just kind of grinded it out on their own. Certainly an opportunity I wish was afforded for me, but we just had to do it the old-fashioned way. You and I, grinding through the bullshit and just getting the hell beat out of us, and thinking working 80 hours a week made us a hero. So yeah, anyway, there was that reason. It was an opportunity. It was a landscape that was missing a couple of concepts that I thought would do really well without a lot of competition. But more importantly, it really became a laboratory. I got a full service concept. I've got a more casual sit down concept. I think doing 3 day parts is really hard. I think it's impossible to do. I think it's near impossible to do 3 day parts in a single concept. So I wanted to test the theory of doing 3 day parts with 2 different concepts in a mixed use space. It's got a lot of synergy. It's got a lot of really cool stuff. Anyway, so down a bunny hole, but that is usually how it goes with me. So yeah, got the restaurants. They're smashing. They're doing really
awesome restaurants too. By the way, I've been to your restaurants. The pizza is amazing. The brunch concept is amazing. Yeah, it's just and just the flow of the place is just, you did a great job thinking about not only just guest flow but also team flow, which a lot of people don't take into that consideration. A lot of times they think about the guest flow, they're not thinking about the workflow for the team.
The workflow is critical. Yeah, I think you really got to look at it as, I think when you open a restaurant, you should really be considering what's the minimum amount of people that I need, what's the maximum amount of people that I need. How do we build the business to kind of overcome slow, and how do we build the business to overcome busy? I think look at it through the lens of both sides of that. It's a pretty wide scale, right? So my restaurants are in Arizona, and it forces you, the location that we're in forces you to think that way and design that way. We'll go through season here that, it ticks up. It's about a 9-month window that kind of slowly builds up, and then it plateaus at its peak for 3 really good months, and then slowly starts to decline. And then you get to summer and it's fucking crickets. I mean, it is it is dead. And so you got to get really creative, but you also have to budget and plan, kind of like a school teacher, right? Like,
oh, definitely.
Yeah, I'm making money 9 months out of the year, and then
summer is feast and famine. Yeah, it's famine during summer.
Yeah, and then weird shit too in Arizona, like things you don't think of. You're running through season and your utility bill's like $2,500, and then you get the summer when there's no sales and your utility bill, just the AC bill, I mean, shit jumps up to $5,000. So it's been a fascinating experience, but it's really been a fun laboratory to just play and test theory and do shit. A little crazy, but put your money where your mouth is as a consultant, and I can't tell people to do shit that I haven't done. And it's funny how much pushback I get from clients when I talk to them about these crazy ideas, and they're like, yeah, that never work. And I'm like, well, here's the business plan.
It does
here's
work.
the proof of concept. Here's my P&L. Like, it sounds crazy, but it works.
It does work. No, it does work. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's like, so I'd probably ask you too, is like, since you've opened, what are some like hard lessons you've learned that you now maybe changed just some of the ways you do consulting and coaching?
Man, I tell you, it put me back in touch with the empathetic side of me. I feel like, I was going through consulting at such a high level, working on, large chains and bigger groups. And I kind of lost touch with the reality of just being in touch with people. Like, it's easy for me to show up and tell you all these great things to do, and then realize you got to go back and try to shoehorn those ideas, the implementation of those ideas and thoughts somewhere within this 80-hour week that you work, that you have no time for anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely taught me to be a lot more strategic, a lot more kind of paint by numbers a little bit in the detail and the execution plan that I give my clients. It's used to kind of be like, well, here's the 4 steps, step 1, step 2. Now it's like, here's the 20 steps that are going to take you 10 minutes, and you have to do them in blocks of 5 at a time for 2.5 minutes each, and then you're done. Like, it's just required a lot more detail. It's required a lot more inefficiency. I built my concepts to scale. This is the 3rd restaurant group that I've built with scale in mind. And you had some questions, I think, further down the list. We'll talk about scaling a little bit, because I think there's some interesting ahas and takeaways on that.
Yeah. So let's talk about leadership and stuff like that. And I always say, somebody asked me like a couple years ago, I think Forbes magazine asked me, like, do you think there's too many restaurants? I said, there's too many average restaurants. They say, what do you think is the problem with average restaurants? I said, it's leadership, or lack of leadership, a big leadership gap. What do you think is the number one trait today's restaurant leaders have to have to kind of survive everything that's going on in the world?
Well, look, I think it's an interesting question, but I would probably answer it, or I'll attack it from a different angle. I think why is always the first question. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we lost sight of somewhere along the way. So I guess I would spin the question to say there is definitely a lack of leadership, but I think the reason for the lack of leadership is because we're not leading with, why is there a lack of leadership? Why is leadership so important? And my answer to that would be culture. Leadership drives culture. And there's a great quote, kind of a mantra we have pinned up in our office, and it's a reminder for everybody on our leadership team. Purpose drives people, people drive culture, culture drives performance.
There you go.
And to start, culture is the most critical thing for a million reasons. And I was reading a whole bunch of your questions, and almost every one of the questions are tied to culture in some type of derivative or another. And it all starts with leadership. So
I talk about culture. In this book, I have like a couple of big, huge chapters all on culture, and this is in my new book, Ingredients.
Man, I mean, I could talk about culture for 5 hours straight. I could give crazy cool examples. I could give you so much, but it all starts with leadership. And leadership, when we talk about why, I have this concept called identity. Nobody gives a shit about your identity, how you identify. They want to know why you identify the way you do. So the why you identify how you do is what we call identity, and it's a really critical question to ask. The outline of it is basically identity defines the leadership foundation, right? So you have to talk about the why. Why was the business built? Who was the business intended for? What does it offer that others don't? When we talk about point of distinction, you're right. There's a lot of average restaurants out there. Where do you want the business to go? If you don't start with the end in mind, you're just on a crazy wayward journey. When will the business grow? And then how will it grow? I mean, kind of having a plan, having a foundational plan. I guess the antecedent to leader is the followers, right? So you can't lead without followers, and you can't gain followers without having a defined identity. I give you another quote, a personal quote that I talk about all the time. I think our goal in business is to have one audience doing two separate tasks that end up in the same place. So that one audience is who you attract with your identity. It should be a compelling story, and that's employees and guests alike. Those are the two audiences. So you have the ones that you pay and the ones that pay you. But at the end, you're hoping for a singular outcome, and that is, in my opinion, we call it loyal advocacy.
Yes.
I want those two functions to be performed by those two people, which are honestly the same group that I'm attracting, right? The ones I pay and the ones that pay me. Loyal advocacy. If my employees are loyal advocates, I've created a great culture. Then they create the loyal advocacy amongst the staff, right? The guest is, or I'm sorry, amongst the guest. The guest is not my guest. The guest is my employee's guest. My employee is my guest, right? This is kind of this top-down functionality. There was an author, Howard Behar. He was actually part of the H2O, the Howard Oren construct. Three guys who really built and designed and executed from the ground up the whole growth strategy of Starbucks, right? And Howard Schultz is the one who gets all the credit for it, but really the genius behind the curtain was Howard Behar, and he's written some amazing books. And I read this book years ago, and I remember when he had talked about that hierarchy of his guest is his employee, and the employee's guest is the restaurant's guest. I really like that. Helped me just kind of hone my focus. I mean, I still love touching tables and chatting with the guests, and the guests always love to say that they know the owner, this and that. And you always have to deal with the bullshit and the problems and respond to the reviews, and positive and negative. But outside of that, it's just that hierarchy to me is very critical. So I know I took you on a crazy journey there, as I usually do.
I love it.
Here's the good news. You're broadcasting this to restaurateurs. I apologize for my brain in the business world all the time, but I never have to apologize for my brain in the restaurant world. Like, people get it. They think the way that I think. We're, scatterbrained and all over the place. And that's a lot to throw at you in one quick question. But leadership is the most important thing, but it's because of what it's tied to. It's the cause, and the culture is the effect. That's right? Both good and bad.
You know, my favorite question to ask when I walk into a restaurant, and I'll tell owners this all the time. I said, I'm going to be able to get a read on your culture in 20 seconds. And they go, how? I go, I'm going to go around and ask your team one question. And I'll walk up to people on the team and I'll ask them this one question. Who do you work for? 9 times out of 10, they'll say the person above them. Like if I ask a server, I work for the GM. If I ask a GM, I work for the owner. I say that's fucking wrong, because culture flows down.
Yep.
If I ask an owner, who do you work for? I don't work for anybody. I work for myself. I'm the owner. No, that's wrong. You work for your team.
Right.
And the GM should work for his team, and the team should work for the guest.
Yeah.
Right away, you can figure out which way the culture is going just by that one question. Who do you work for?
Boy, it's mindset too, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's funny you bring up the word leadership, and man, I will tell you, and you know this about me, man. Words have meaning, and
Definitely.
man, I hate the word manager.
I hate it. With a passion. You and I are on the same page on this. We hate it with a passion.
Yeah, we don't call people managers. We call them leaders. Yep. Words have meaning, right? If I call you a manager, you're going to manage. You're going to maintain. You're going to prevent shit from breaking. You're going to babysit. You're just going to keep things status quo.
Yeah.
Right. Leadership has a much different definition. And I mean, it's something I encourage every restaurateur, every operator that I talk to, stop using that word. Stop calling your people managers. It's a terrible word. It's an ugly, ugly, terrible word with a terrible implication. If you want to grow, if you want to succeed, if you want a great culture, you have to empower people with words that have meaning, right? So call them leaders. Call them part of your leadership team. Anyway, I'll jump off my soapbox, but
no, I agree, and I'm also like one of the things I've always done too. Even when I had my own restaurants, was like I never used traditional job titles. I didn't call anybody a server. I called them a dining consultant because I always felt like my job as a restaurant consultant is to make recommendations to make your restaurant better. Well, as a dining consultant, your job is to make recommendations to make the experience better for the guest. Same thing. I never called anybody a dishwasher.
Right.
I called them a ceramic aquatic technician.
Yeah. I went through an exercise where I allowed my team to kind of make their own business cards and
that'd be cool.
Self-title. I had a bartender who called herself the head intoxicologist.
There you go.
I thought that was fantastic. Yeah, it was good.
That's so powerful, man. Yeah. And here's the thing, and we go into leadership. We talk about, being the leader, culture, and stuff like that. Burnout is probably an epidemic in this industry. And, how do you personally recharge when that pressure cooker of ownership and consulting kind of hits full boil?
It's a sickness.
It's a disease.
Yeah, I think most of us have it. I find myself thinking about how I recharge less than I think about how I keep everybody else recharged and from burning out. But for me, it's you got to find meaningful pleasure in small doses. And so I do. There's just little things. I love fly fishing. So any chance I get, I can cut away and just go do some fly fishing.
I've known you for 15 years. I did not know you like fly fishing, dude.
Look at that.
Dude, I learned something new. I did not know you like fly fishing. Like, holy shit, that's something I did not know about you.
You see that big fly right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's my favorite thing in the world to do. It's my most cathartic way to turn everything off and just nothing else exists. Yeah, that's a good one. I love shooting guns. There's actually a cool place down by where you live called C2 Tactical.
That's where I go to. Yeah,
it's a cool little spot. So, when you literally say blowing off steam, that's literally how I go blow off steam. It's just
go shoot a couple hundred rounds. You feel a lot better about yourself.
Yeah. That's it. Outside of that, I think reading. I feel like when I start getting burnt out, it's because things are just getting too heavy, and that makes me think there's something I don't know. I'm not doing something efficiently. I'll always be reminded that me and Jeff Bezos have the exact same amount of hours in a day. Me and Elon Musk have the exact same amount of hours in a day. So if I get burnt out, it's typically because I'm frustrated. I'm doing the Sisyphusian rolling this damn rock up the hill. I'm doing something inefficiently, or I'm not thinking about a solve in a more dynamic way. So reading and just constantly seeking education, and then I have a good network of people. Obviously I've got a lot of buddies who are consultants, and sometimes, listen, it's real, and it's no less real than it was 30 years ago when, almost 30 years ago when I owned my first restaurant, 28 years ago. You get in it, and sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
So I have to just objectively go take my challenges to other people and say, man, what am I missing? What am I doing? And I'll walk people through kind of what the frustration is and challenge is. And I guess that's the beauty of, I think in order to be a good consultant, you have to be willing to be consulted with, right? Yeah. And just be honest. And I'll tell you that's true with all the clients that I work with. The ones that have the best results are the ones that are just painfully honest. The ones that are just ashamedly honest. Just here's everything broken, and I know it, but I don't know what to do because I'm putting out fires, dealing with all this other bullshit. So, yeah, that's I guess that's what I do to kind of blow off steam or reset.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about ops and strategy. What's one strategy or system that you implemented in your own restaurants that immediately improved team performance or the guest experience?
I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of radical shit. Maybe like the most radical thing that I do as an independent. What's that?
You know what I think is radical shit, and you talked about this when I was at your restaurant a couple of weeks ago, is that what you pay people.
Yeah, so I was gonna that was the path I'm gonna go down.
It's like that is like I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Well, and it's funny because it ties back to culture, right? Mm-hmm. And it's tough as an independent to compete with big box stores that they're offering 401ks and they're offering dental, medical, vision. We can't compete with that as independents, but it doesn't mean that we're beat. But we have to be really creative about what we do. And it can't just turn into a pissing match about who's going to pay them more. I mean, I think that's a little bit of it. The pay has to be there, but we have a very, very dynamic construct. The first one is we have an employee benefits piece that, it's not really dynamic from a cost standpoint, but I think it's thoughtful. And I think that's a really critical way to start your engagement with a staff. And I have kind of a quote that we talk about where culture starts before the employee does. And so when you're sitting down interviewing and you're pitching yourself, there was a time when I was a young man where I was the pitch when I was trying to get a job. I was trying to sell myself. Yeah. That shit ain't like that anymore. Dude, now it's people are looking at, why should I work here? You sell me on why I should work here. So that's a reality, and that's not, gosh, it's a charming place to live. I wish the environment was like that when I was younger. But so knowing that that's what it's like, I think probably the most radical stuff that we do lies in how we pitch. So we do it's a $30 a quarter incentive that we're going to pay for something. So we have this big giant list. Like you can get pet insurance or Netflix or your Amazon Prime account paid for. You could get, we do promotions where we trade gift cards with all the restaurants in town here across the street. And we use that to do promotions for staff, where we'll, give them a gift card to go eat someplace else for different performance things, anniversaries, stuff like that. But it's all full trade, so it's low on the money side. We definitely offer a leading wage in the industry. I think we're about $2.50 to $3 higher per hour starting than anybody around us. But there's also there's a philosophy attached to that. So it's a short question, long answer. We offer all of our employees get 2 consecutive days off. That's an important part of our package. It doesn't exist in the restaurant industry. Everybody's on tip share. So for the back of the house, that comes out to about $2.50, $3 an hour, depending on days of the week that you work and the volumes. That's a pretty big deal. And let me think. What else? Everybody is guaranteed 40 hours.
Oh, nice.
Guaranteed. Now that's a tricky thing to do.
Yeah.
But the beauty of having 2 concepts is I've cross-trained everybody that wants to be cross-trained, that wants that guarantee of their 40 hours. Everybody that wants that is cross-trained on both houses. And it's also known that I'm going to guarantee you 40 hours, but it may not be 40 hours in a particular station that I've hired you for.
Right.
Here's the reality of the restaurant business. There's always work to be done, right? And so I'll bring a guy in for a 4 or 5 hour just deep clean shift if you want to make your hours. It's but I think telling people that in the beginning is a big deal. But really, it really starts with how we pitch ourselves to them. It's big in that presentation. Like, I ask a lot of interesting interview questions, and I'm going to give you some of them, because when I say that culture starts before the interview does, that means I'm prepared for the interview, right? So it's our interview process is definitely not normal. I like to ask a couple of interesting questions. I love asking everybody what their favorite cereal is. I love asking everybody what their favorite candy is. It just kind of lightens the mood, but it's also something to write down, and it's a nice little gift. It's a nice, inexpensive little gift to just give somebody once in a while. Is their favorite candy or a box of their favorite cereal. It seems silly, but it's thoughtful, and you can demonstrate it later down the road. My other favorite question is, how much do you pay a month in rent? And I think we've talked about this. It's a tricky question, though.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah, I asked that question because I'm trying to identify that they pay rent. Because when I find out that they're living at home with mom and dad, maybe they don't care about the 40 hours guaranteed. So if I got to give that to everybody else, I'll ask them, like, do you need 40 hours a week? Like, no, I can work between 25 and 30. But it also tells me how vested they're going to be and how much I can rely on them. And the reason why I started asking that question is because I have an employee, and she's really, really good. She shows up and works hard. And when she gets tired, she just calls out, so it's like once every other week. And she lives at home, and she doesn't need to make those ends meet to pay rent. Yeah. So she was the genesis for that question. And so now, ever since then, I asked that question, and it's a pretty powerful one.
That's a good question.
I talk about expectations. So when I invite somebody in for an interview, I give them a little homework. And it's simple little homework. I just said, hey, when you show up, I'm going to kind of tell you who we are as a company and what our expectations are. But you've obviously had a job before. What are your expectations of a boss and of a company? I want you to think about that and write that down, and we'll discuss it when you come in for the interview. I don't want to catch you off guard because I've asked it just on the spot, and people yammer and stammer or say silly shit. But it's an important question to have, a negotiation of mutual expectations. And I think, again, it's thoughtful. And Zig Ziglar had a quote that said, people don't care how much you know until you know how much you care. And I think that you have to set that foundation at the beginning when you're bringing somebody on. And just really demonstrate what hospitality looks like, demonstrate what authenticity looks like. I cuss, I catch them off guard with weird shit. I say off-colored stuff in the interview because I want them to relax and feel comfortable, because that's the state they're going to show up to work in. I don't want this preening, pretentious bullshit just to get the job, and then I find out you're a completely different person, right? And sometimes I catch some red flags on that, and sometimes I catch people be authentically themselves, and I'm like, dude, that's it. Show up as that person. When you talk to guests, when you work with your fellow employees, that's the kind of person that's going to fit our culture, right? And that's ultimately what I'm trying to extract out of interviews. Anyway, I don't even remember what the original question was. I went down this bunny hole on the hiring piece, but
we'll talk about hiring and pay and how you sit.
On the pay. Yeah. So it's a lot more than just pay. And now, when I talk about owning a restaurant as a laboratory, there's a really important piece to that. So you look at restaurant industry statistics. The average turnover in a full service sit-down restaurant, casual dining, fine dining, you're about high 90s to 100% annual turnover. You look at it in quick service, QSR, you're at 120 plus. So there's a real mathematical equation to calculating the cost of cycling an employee, right? And so I have this whole calculator, and it's interesting when you just fill it out. So how much time do you spend recruiting, hiring, writing job ads, this and that? How much time then do you spend interviewing people? How many candidates? How many times do you get stood up? How many times do you come a day to actually sit down and have these meaningful, intentional interviews that are promoting? While I'm on that subject, I'm going to say that while every candidate may not be an employee, every candidate is absolutely a customer. And boy, I can't tell you how many people miss that opportunity. after somebody comes in out of their way to interview with me, I always buy them a meal to take home. I want them to love the food. Even if they don't get the job, I want them to love the food, and I want them to become a customer. So anyway, that's a little bit off track.
No, it's critical though, because most people, like you said, most people never even consider that.
Yeah. So when you look at the time to onboard somebody, you look at the expense of training them. You look, are you paying a shift differential for a trainer to train them? You look at the error rate, the mistakes. You look at all the tasting and the sampling that you have to do with those people to eat their way through the menu. You look at the cost of their uniform that you're never going to be able to reuse. Once they've worn it, it's done, it's gone. So the average cost, according to the National Restaurant Association, in a survey that they had done, it's a couple years old, but I believe the number is still pretty true. I think it was around $4,500. And I mean, I could send you this whole list. You could post it and people can just put in all the answers to those questions, divide whatever your wage is by how many hours a week you work, or whatever you think your hourly wage is, or your hourly wage of your leaders. You apply this to it and you see really fast that this $4,500 is a real number. So when I talk about leading with culture, and I talk about this intentional onboarding and this thoughtful way that we interview people. And then when they show up after they've gotten the job, we give them a nice little gift bag with the swag and the merch and their clothing and all the stuff with their name on it, their favorite candy inside the bag. All that shit is very, very intentional, because here's what we know. A happy employee doesn't leave. And if you can, so I got like 28 full-time staff between my two restaurants. Not huge, not crazy, but let's just say I were to cut that 100% turnover in half, and I'm only going to turn over 14 people, right? You're talking about $60,000 versus $120,000 in turnover expense. I just put $60,000 back in my pocket by being thoughtful. Now, when I have that $60,000, I can divide that by my total employee wage. And if I can reach that goal, I can divide that by total number of hours worked, and I can put that $60,000 into the pay that I give them. And
no shit.
So it pays for itself. It's really, really pretty crazy. But people don't think like that. People don't measure the soft cost of things. People don't measure the investment value of things. And I don't want to get that money and put that $60,000 back in my pocket. I want to put that $60,000 back in my people, because they'll generate me far more than $60,000, right? I mean, think about the consistency to the guests. When my guests come in, the food tastes the same every time, because I've had the same core kitchen team since we opened almost 3 years ago. I've had almost zero turnover in the front of the house because they make so much money, but the guest recognizes them. My employees recognize the guests. The engagement is real. It's authentic. There's no gaps in the tribal knowledge. They know the last 4 menu iterations because we change the menu every quarter. And when a guest asks for something that's been off the menu for a year, they're like, oh yeah, we can still make it. We have a little cheat sheet in the back. And my guys in the back, again, they've been there. They remember how to make that dish. We just pulled it because it wasn't popular, but somebody still loves it. And we give them that VIP treatment because we still have all the same ingredients. So we make the dish. Like little shit like that, you can't get that benefit with crazy turnover and that loss of fidelity.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So true. Awesome.
So you sent me 40 questions. You're only going to be able to ask me 5 because
that's all right.
My answers take forever.
That's okay. All right. So let's talk about a good one. So you're like me, you've seen thousands of P&Ls, and most of the P&Ls we look at, it would make most people cry. What's a common profit killer that is hiding in plain sight of most restaurants?
It's so much. The biggest thing is just a lack of budgeting. Yep. Lack of budgeting is the profit killer. Lack of budgeted disciplines. I know restaurants that just order whatever they need whenever they need it. Like, we've broken too many plates. Let's just order a whole round of plates. New silverware, new knives, new cups, new everything. People don't really give a shit about it when shit's broken or they run out and they just order it blindly. Like I think about just Amazon is the best thing and the worst thing for restaurants ever, right? Because most restaurants just have an Amazon account. A lot of the managers can just jump on with no discretion and just get whatever they want. So one of the greatest disciplines I learned working for Metro Media Restaurant Group was just budgeted P&Ls. So you look at how much you spent last year. You take your total annualized P&L and you look at every single general ledger line, and then that total, you divide it by 12, and that's next month's budget, right?
Yes.
What's your average that you spent? So here's what your budget allotment is on chemical. Here's what it is on food. Here's what it is on drinks and paper and packaging. Here's what it is on supply and equipment. Here's what it is on repair and maintenance. Here's what it is on preventative maintenance. All of those numbers. And then I don't want to encourage anybody to shortcut those. I want you to spend all the way up to that amount. It's allocated. But I want you to watch and not spend over it. So be thoughtful when you pull the trigger. Hey, I know we need forks and knives and steak knives and coffee cups, but it's the end of the month, and what's the critical? Are they all critical? If they are critical, you blow the budget. You got to take care of the guest. You got to take care of the employee. But, oh, you know what? I just really need the steak knives. I'm down to 4, and I should have 40. So, but I'm not going to order 40. I'll just order 20 on this budget. And then at the beginning of the month, I'm going to load in all those other things that I need and load them. But it just makes you more mindful. It makes you watch. It makes you make everybody else accountable. I think that's probably one of the biggest ones. I would say one of the other common ones is people don't spend enough in marketing.
Oh yeah, that's another huge one.
But I will also say that's for the average restaurant. They need to spend money in marketing, at a clip of 2 to 3%. My marketing budget's about a 0.25%, and I can't stop people from coming in the restaurant. But there's a much different reason. It's a higher level, crazier tactic that we're doing. And again, it goes back to culture, and it goes back to no turnover, and it goes back to amazing experiential hospitality when people come to my restaurant. And because of that, we get our customers to do all our marketing for us because they tell everybody. You look at every single review that's posted. One of the things I'm most proud of is this as a theory and that it's working. We run a 4.8 Yelp score, a 4.8 Google score. That's unheard of. That's unheard of 3 years in the business. And we've never
3 years too.
We've never solicited one review ever. We don't do it. And I'm not against it. It's okay to do it. I just like to tell the story that I don't solicit.
I don't need to. Yeah, I haven't had to.
We get a shit ton of them. There's no incentive for people posting, and 90% of the time I don't even respond, and I should. I'll wait till like 3 months and I'll be like, oh shit, I'll go back 3 months and respond to every single one of them. But that's a dynamic piece, right? I think that when you have a product that sells itself, it also markets itself, or the people do it for you. If you're not doing something right, but you have to market in the beginning. You got to get the word out. But after that, it should catch fire if you're doing it right, It's like momentum. Once you get it going, it should be easy to maintain it if you keep the ball rolling. Right.
But if you stop, then that's when people get in trouble.
Right. No, 100%.
Yeah, you talk about budgets as being a critical thing. I have a new kind of a program I've been teaching. It's called Profit Rocket. And the Profit Rocket is all about, it's designed for restaurants below 5% profitability. And we focus just on 3 things. And I got the idea from my pararescue days, from being a paramedic in combat search and rescue. And the thing was triage. In a triage situation, when you walk up on a patient, you check 3 things: airway, bleeding, circulation. Because that's also very critical for any restaurant underperforming below 5%. So airway to me is budgets. If you don't have, if you don't know where the money's going, you're just gonna have no air. And then bleeding, of course, is your P&L, because most restaurants bleed out in their P&L because they don't understand the complexity of the P&L and understand where to really find that money that's missing or bleeding out. And then that C, circulation, is all about organic marketing. You got to be top of mind. You got to stay up in front of people. You got to keep that marketing machine going all the time. So this new protocol we've been teaching has been really, really powerful. And it kind of just ties into what you've been talking about. Is like people just, they don't have budgets, or they blow their budgets, or everyone's communicating the budgets. It also goes back to that culture piece that you talked about also as well.
There are so many gaps in the business financial literacy.
Oh, it's huge. It's the number one thing I think we're, as business owners in the United States in general, financial literacy is the number one reason why people go under.
Yeah, and there's good resources. The National Restaurant Association has a standard chart of accounts.
Yep,
and
I
it's
love
a
that one.
really good P&L breakdown.
Yep.
And so when I look at my P&L and the way that I do my P&Ls, I have a summary, I have a modest depth view, and then I've got the full-blown view.
Yep.
And I've got benchmarks because of budgets next to every item. And so when I see something's exceeded the budget, I know what to drill down on and to see why. And sometimes they're legitimate, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're coaching opportunities and disciplines. Sometimes they lead to bigger issues. Like we had a fryer that shit the bed, and it was only 2 years old, and it had a 2-year warranty, but it just missed its warranty, and the preventative maintenance we weren't doing. So then you get back to, okay, I don't want to make this mistake again, so we got to do the preventative maintenance. Same thing with refrigeration and everything else. And it's like anything, you can't find time for it until it costs you. And anytime you learn a really expensive lesson, it's amazing how you tend to find time to pay attention to it so it doesn't happen again. But I think that the financial literacy thing is a really big deal. Understanding your numbers, knowing where everything is and where it goes and how to control it. It's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal. But there's an offset for that too. So if you were to go to brunchcavecreek.com, our brunch kitchen cocktails restaurant, I would encourage anybody to look at our menu, and you will see that there is not one lip service item on the menu. I don't have a basic breakfast. I don't have omelets, because omelets require a depth of talent and time that I don't want to take, right? So we just do scrambles, but they're all different. We got probably 8 different categories of product, but every item is a point of distinction. And so I look at money 2 ways. It's funny. My partner and I argue about this. My partner's mindset is, you're spending too much.
Yeah, there you go.
My mindset is, no, that means we're not making enough. So you're seeing it as a budget problem. I'm seeing it as a revenue problem. So real simple, I'll just go drive more revenue and I'll solve the budget problem.
That's it.
But I do actually think there's a duality in both, right? And so that's what you're talking about, is you've got to market to increase revenue, but you have to budget to be financially responsible. And balancing that mindset. You can't save your way into success in this business.
No, you can't. A lot of people think they can.
Yeah.
Or cut expenses you just can't.
No,
you just can't cut. Eventually, it's the law of diminishing returns, and you just cut yourself out.
100%. And image is everything. Like, image to me is everything. Like, we do so much little nuancy shit that, so like, it's a brunch concept. I buy these little French jars of jam and preserve that, individual, look kind of like the Knott's Berry Farm. I'm not sure if you've seen those little ones with the glass jar, but it's a French style one it's a beautiful, beautiful product. And people are like, why do you do that? We do real butter, right? Like, we do no seed oil anywhere in our cooking process, but we don't promote that shamelessly and tell about it. We love it when people ask us and we can answer the question. Like, why would you use real butter? Because real butter is better. It's a lot more expensive, but it's better. We didn't take an egg surcharge. It's just the cost of doing business. Now, we redid our menu and we started promoting a lot more things without eggs. And we told our staff, trained them, like, hey, let's promote these items that aren't egg items. Let's have some fun and sell some of this other stuff so we can take the burden off of the ratio of eggs. But it's about intent, and it's about having a knowledgeable staff that you're transparent with and that you're strategic with. And man, I'll tell you, there's another great quote that I heard, and I really like it. And it's a culture quote for sure. And it says, when people are financially invested, they want to return. When people are emotionally invested, they want to contribute. And that was Simon Sinek. Yeah, it's a great quote.
That's really sick. Yeah.
Yeah, it promotes me every day to just, you have to keep people emotionally engaged, right? And that just starts by caring about them, right? As a leader, you should want to remove the obstacles and make sure, WTF, where's the friction? Remove the friction. That's our job. But beyond that, you have to just genuinely care. There's this little nickel strategy. I learned this when I was in fine dining. Kind of created it, adopted it from somebody else that I had worked for as a mentor. And he's like, spend 5 minutes with 5 people a day, and do that every day of the week. And so I adopted it so I'll get there and I have the list in my pocket when I get to the restaurant. I got a list of who's working and who I'm going to chat with, and in no order. So I'll just grab them. I'll be like, hey, you got a second to chat? And they'll come with me, and we'll exit the building. We'll get out of the space that they're in. And we'll just take a walk around the building. And I just got a handful of questions like, what's going on in your life? Yeah. What are you looking forward to? What are you excited about right now? What's your favorite thing that's happening in your life right now? What's your least favorite thing that's happening right now? There's no agenda that's work related. It's just a chance to get them to open up. And it's amazing how often they'll end up turning it into a work conversation. But it's also amazing how often they won't. Like, oh man, I'm looking forward to this concert. I requested those 3 days off in 2 weeks, and we're going on that cool, festival. And dude, I'm so looking forward to that. By the way, if you got any cleaning duties or anything I can do to pick up some extra hours, I need to scrape some money together so I can afford those 3 days off, whatever. It's just little shit, but it's amazing how much people care when they know you care, right? True. They don't want to let you down. And when you look, they're probably the greatest quote I ever heard in my life. My mother had told me, we teach people how to treat us.
Oh, that's so true.
That's powerful. We don't tell them how to treat us. We teach them, right? We let them get away with the shit that they do, or we treat them a certain way, which teaches them, oh, that's the way we're supposed to work in this dynamic. Okay, you ignore me and don't talk to me. I'll ignore you and don't talk to you. Like, that's the standard we set, right? So we teach people how to treat us, man. It's the truest thing. And what is 5 minutes? What is 5 minutes? Can you spend 25 minutes of conversation a day with employees? I promise you can. Even if you're working a 10-hour shift, make it a 10-hour and 25-minute shift, because I promise you it will make the next shift 9 hours. Because you're no longer putting out fires and scrambling and dealing with all this passive aggressive shit coming at you, and going and sitting down with an employee and having a big coaching meeting for a half an hour. If you front end load it with the 5 minutes, 5 people a day, you won't have those big 30-minute blow-ups.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just such a cool connection piece. And again, it's a critical part of culture, and it's amazing how much it works. I don't talk about this ethereal, fluffy shit for the sake of it makes me feel good. It has a direct correlation to cost. I'm telling you, it drives down my turnover. It increases my morale. It gets people to work harder for me and with me and for our guests. The outcomes are immeasurable. So it's cause and effect. It's not just cause. I think it makes people feel good. I mean, that's a nice to have, but the need to have is the outcome from that behavior.
Need to have,
yeah.
So when you're looking at where the industry's heading and stuff like that, rising cost, consumer shifting trends, behavior, tariffs, what excites you and what scares the shit out of you?
What excites me, so I just got back from NRA in Chicago, and I started looking at, I go every year, and I try to look for my own trend amongst the show. What do I see more of? What do I see less of? What do I see that I've never seen before? What didn't I see that I always used to see? I like looking at those things. It's a different, I think, thing that I look for than probably what most people go to the show looking for. But there's always some interesting insights. I would say the industry has been shifting for a number of years away from the functional part of cooking and more towards functional dynamic prep. And somewhere along the way we got it wrong. And so the equation is flipping, and I like this flip. So prep was too heavy. This is a non-skilled person chopping lettuce, potato, onion, tomato, and, making ranch dressing. Fuck that. Let's just buy all of our shit pre-cut, pre-chopped, pre-managed, pre-made. And then somewhere along the line, everything just started tasting the same everywhere.
Yep.
And I was like, man, there's no point of distinction in that. So I've always come from a background of very prep heavy. My logo for the Bo Bryant Restaurant Giant is a knife and a whisk. And I say, put the knife down, pick the whisk up, right? Like, no one's going to taste your knife, but they'll definitely taste your whisk. So I'll buy certain things. If the quality's there, I'll buy pre-cut stuff, pre-diced stuff. Our pico's pre-made. I'm not going to make pico. That's arduous, takes forever, and it's not going to taste that much different. But I put my whisk in every single sauce that we make. That the guest can taste. They can taste our dressings, our sauces, our gravies. All that stuff is unique, made from scratch, and it tastes like it. So I do think, so when you start looking at kitchen equipment and kitchen technology, Rationale paved the way, but man, Rationale's getting eaten up, man. Everybody's jumping into the combi 3-way, 4-way cooking methodology with really, really smart ovens that can microwave, grill, sear, moisture, hold, poach, bake, everything in one oven. Yeah. And so I think what you're starting to see, and Marriott just did this, and it's freaking fascinating. So Marriott went through this whole relaunch. I think it was at maybe their Courtyards or one of their concepts. They sophisticated this whole deal. And the entire food menu is executed by a bartender. Like, the bartender's cross-trained as the cook because everything's all meased out, packaged out, put it in the oven, push this button. It's like the Jetsons. Boop, it's done. Wow. Assemble it, so you're getting a burger. And the quality of it is spot on. Like, it's legitimate. They had a legitimate R&D chef build this concept around, you have a prep person during the day, and it's heavy prep, and they're doing the assembly based on the P-mix, and everything's meased out, and it's on trays, and so the bartender just goes, opens the fridge, puts these 3 things on a tray, pushes this button, and boom, it cooks the fries down here with more air and microwave, and up here it's broiling the burger. So that tech on the equipment is getting there, and I think that excites me and scares me at the same time, because it's going to require an intelligent culinary operator that knows how to make good food in a way that will scale. It's kind of hybridizing techniques that guys like you and I that did a kind of catering in our backgrounds understand. Here's how to make great quality product hold, or here's why you're picking a higher quality product so that it will hold. But now with these methods, with just some of this kitchen tech, I'm not talking about robots. There's some robot assist stuff that I think is kind of cool. Like, listen, right now, I would absolutely invest in a robot bartender if I could carve out space in the back of the house and just have a.
Oh, wait, would you really?
For a cocktail
station.
Remember
we saw some really cool robot ones when we were in Madrid. Where we were at the Innovation Planet. Remember those guys were like really onto some robotic shit.
They were, and you're starting to see those things come out smaller and tighter, where you can put together a whole cocktail menu, and there's like 3 different spouts of line that run up into each finger, so it can articulate the glass, it can articulate the ice, it can put the drinks in it, stir it. Anyway, so I have a bar, but that bartender is making drinks for her guests, and she has a station that she has to manage as well. So we get to Sundays and we're doing 650 covers in a 6-hour window.
Yeah, your places. I mean, it's
a 100-seat restaurant.
It's tight.
It's ridiculous. So I could see the benefit of spending $35,000 for a robotic bartender in the back kitchen that's just making server drinks, cocktails. The bartender's still putting on the show. It still looks legit. The servers aren't waiting for the bartender anymore. Yeah, when a bartender gets slammed on a Sunday because she just got 40 Bloody Marys ordered from all the servers, hard for her to take care of her guest, her or him. So I see that as exciting, but I also see it as scary because it's going to force us to think and solve things in a different way and plan on things. And hopefully, you hate to build the plane in the air. But at the same time, the business is always going. So it's not like you could just shut down, train, reset. Like, you got to do it on the fly. I think the other exciting thing for me, especially when we're talking about budgeting and financials, I think probably the most exciting thing for me is where I think AI is probably going to have the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time. And that is this. If people are trying to get AI to do a bunch of creative shit, and it's not there yet. For creative, I like Meta's AI because it's social based, right? All of its algorithms and data are coming off of social media. ChatGPT and Copilot, those are all just of the internet. So all their data is everything from the internet. And of course, everything on the internet is true and 100% perfect. So you get some weird shit out of that, especially when you're trying to pull creative. Creative, I think, is going to be the last thing that AI can replace. It's the functional binary data elements that I think AI is going to jump into. So I'll give you some example. I've got some really badass prompts and a layover that will probably end up.
You and I should get together and have lunch and compare prompts. I got a really badass prompt, dude, that I designed on chat, and I can take someone's menu. They can send me a PDF or a menu. I can load it up into chat with this prompt. It'll tell me what your theoretical food cost should be.
Yeah, that's killer.
That's dude, so well. It's fucking sick. I was like, holy shit.
So that's not too different from what I'm doing, but anybody who owns a restaurant that's listening to this will absolutely understand what I'm about to say. I probably spend at least 8 to 10 hours a month pulling individual esoteric non-dynamic reports off of my PMix, off of my sales, off of my labor matrix, off of my purchase spend from my distributor. And I have to go through, so just like a sales report in general, the POS companies suck at creating good dynamic reporting because no operator likes to look at stuff the same way, I guess. So it's all very generic, but they also don't have, there's a very common piece of technology called BI. It's a business instrument, and all it is just a repository for all your data, and every data is comma delimited, and it's got a comma separated value, CSV. And so it's like sales, day of the week, guest check average, total number of items of each sale. Well, our reporting doesn't get that. I can run a PMix and I can run it over a period of time.
Right.
But one of the things that my POS system won't do for me is it won't run a year over year, day over day with a trend line and a percentage up, down. And it doesn't factor in weather. My POS system does record historic weather, but it doesn't take that and give me a layover report like this same Monday last year, you did $3,500 in sales and it didn't rain. So this Monday, it's supposed to rain. So we look at the historic last time it rained on a Monday in this month or whatever, and boom. So anyway, that's ridiculous. And I'm getting way down this crazy bunny hole. But I'm pulling PMix reports. And then I'm going through exporting them to Excel. I'm resorting them. I'm putting other comparative data up against them. And I spend all this time doing this. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to make this, this prompt code of a number of different codes that just measures what I'm doing. And then I'm just going to upload the data and see if those prompts work to give me the same outcome. And they didn't, and I had to work on it a few times. I'll tell you another one that I do that I'm really curious about is server performance.
Oh yeah, I love that one. That's
we have
a huge one.
The CCV deal, right? So it's customer culture and what the hell is the V? Value. So the customer side is basically driven by sales. The culture side is driven by how often you run food, and that seems silly, but our front of the house runs food, and it's a teamwork dynamic, and so we track and measure who runs, right? We just keep tally of who runs. Got a little clicker. It's a silly little deal. Sometimes we just do it with hash marks, but our expo is trained to kind of keep track of who's running. And then the value part of it comes from selling, what we call the DADs, the drinks, appetizers, desserts, and specials. So I've got people who perform higher in sales, but they don't sell those value added items. And I've got people who do both of those really well, but they don't run food or help contribute to the culture part of it. So we look at the delta of all three things. So I've got to pull different reports. I've got to take manual data entry for the food runner report. And then I have to look, I've got to sort the report based on items that were sold to see who sold the dads. Then I got to do it on a sales value to see who sold the most, but then I have to weight that based on what day of the week they work and what time, right? Because I'm going to have somebody who's going to look really, really shitty if they only work Monday through Thursday and they don't work Friday, Saturday, Sunday in a brunch concept. Like you're smoked, you're dead, right? So there's weighted value to it. And we really get this finite. And then of course we look at the percentage of tips, and that's a whole different report. I have to look at a tip report, and we want to attach that average tip percentage per person guest check, number of dads that were sold, and their contribution to the team culturally. So that's 4 different reports I have to pull to be able to distill down this really, really comprehensive team ranking piece that we do, this employee report card piece that we do. And man, when people get their report card and they see that they're an aggregated B- employee, they're shocked. They're like, my sales are so high, my tips are so good. Yeah, but you don't upsell anything, and you suck at bussing your own tables, clearing your own tables, and running food. And so we measure those 3 things. It's an interesting little measurable, and we don't do it every single day, but we do spot check that on the weekends, and it's telling.
Very cool.
Yeah, sorry.
Whew. Oh, you're great. So what's one book, a podcast, or just a piece of content that just kind of hit you like a sledgehammer and made you kind of maybe rethink the way you live and the way you lead?
Well, it's old, but I liked.
I love those ones. Those are the best ones.
Unreasonable Hospitality was good. It had some moments that were over the top, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I being in the industry, it's always fun to read the passion of people in the industry. This is a piece of content that's on my desk that I like.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen these, but
I've never seen those.
They're very cool. So it's 56 cards, 52 of them alphabetical. It's all just words, right?
Yeah.
And it's a cool little personal values deal, and it can change. So it's just got like all these words like alphabetically.
Oh, very cool.
You go through and you pick 5, and that's going to be my focus for this week. These are going to be the values that I try to exemplify this week and show down. And then it's got 4 blank cards that you can write, your own adjective on it. It's a fun thing to do with your team. I think, and I use it in group exercises when I'm trying to get a business to understand what their core values are. And the funny thing about core values, and I know you know this well because you do a lot of it, but I'm constantly trying to get people like 4 to 6. 4 to 6 core values is the magic number. And the reason why is because any value proposition creates accountability. So if you pick 10 words like loyal, honesty, integrity, kindness, thoughtfulness, you get into all these words and it starts to sound kind of just like contrived, non-intentional, and it's overwhelming. I can't memorize 10 things. You give me 3 things, I can do it. 4, 6 if they're really good, you're pushing it, but I'll get there. But the biggest part is not just the memory, it's the accountability. Those 10 things that you said you have to demonstrate every single day. And when you don't, you're a hypocrite. People unplug from the machine and they stop believing in any of them because you didn't demonstrate 1 of them or 2 of them. So as human beings, we can do 3 to 4 things, maybe 5. Restaurant people, I think we could probably do 5 to 6. We're pretty ADD and dynamic, right? We may not be deep, but we're wide. So we can maybe grab 6, right? So I say 4 to 6 core values. That's why my magic number is 5. I'm going to focus on for the week, and I'm going to do those things intentionally. And I'm going to come home and those cards just land on my desk, the 5 core values, and I get home at night. And did I do these things? Fuck, no, I failed. Good thing I didn't tell everybody these were the 5 I was focused on this week. It's a good habit. I like that. I like intentionality, and I like being present. I think those are 2 gifts that don't take a ton of time. They do take some thought, but they don't take a ton of time, and they have an immeasurable impact and a great ROI. So yeah, not so much a book, but that little hack, these value cards.
Great hack. I love value. I love those little cards. I have some, actually, I have some really like, there's some thought-provoking question cards I love. And I love to just pull them out every once in a while and just kind of like, get my brain kind of stimulated. Those are awesome. So
yeah, I agree.
So if anyone's trying to get a hold of Bo, you can always reach Bo at theronaldbryant@gmail.com. If you want to check out his restaurant, go check out brunchcavecreek.com. Bo, exciting always to have you on the show. Always great to have you here. Don't forget, every October, I run my big 3-day event, my annual Restaurant Success Summit. Bo has generously been a speaker. This will be year number, I think we're on year number 7.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And Bo, and we're doing it this year again. So on your write down your calendars, October 20, 21, 22, Scottsdale, Arizona. We'll have 5 different speakers. Bo's always a speaker. Bo is very, very kind and comes in and always, I mean, he's a crowd favorite. Everyone loves, like, everyone gets excited. Like, when's Bo speaking? When's Bo speaking? So, and this year we got some really cool stuff lined up for this year's summit. We're going to do some theory, and then we're also going to do some tactical exercises too. So this year is going to be a little bit different than we've done before. I'm always trying to make the Restaurant Success Summit, just trying to, how can I plus it? How can I make it a little bit better than last year? So that's always been my goal. So I want to say, again, thanks, Bo, for being here. If you need to get a hold of Bo, please reach out to him. And again, if you haven't picked up my latest book on Amazon, a little self-promotion here, Ingredients is now available. Amazon bestseller.
So are there only 3 ingredients? I saw the title and I haven't.
The 3 is basically, well, the three backwards in the title is supposed to be for the 3P framework, people, product, process.
Got it. Good.
Yeah. So this book really digs into my TRC method, about my people, product, process. We actually go down the rabbit hole, and you would like this. You would appreciate this one. I got some really good stuff in there about human needs theory from Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
We got some psychology stuff. We got habit formation change. We got a whole chapter on creating and sustaining a positive restaurant culture. And then we could dig into the 3P framework, people, product, process. And then I outline what I call as my total blueprint for restaurant success. Total is an acronym for a framework I teach now. The first T is for transform your mindset. O is optimize operations. The second T is train your team. A is for amplify your marketing. And L is for leverage your financials. And I'm actually teaching that whole program in a course I offer now called Restaurant Builder. So
nice. Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's great. I'm looking forward to it. October 20th through 22nd.
It's going to be awesome. Awesome.
I got some new content to share.
Yeah, you always have great stuff, man. Everyone always looks forward to your stuff. Everyone have a fantastic day. And if we can help you out, please reach out to us. Let us know.
Awesome. See you guys.